Hey, folks, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour live podcast. It's Friday, another Friday, and we have another great interview coming up for you guys and gals out there. But first, I want to welcome my co host, Mr. Waylon Whitson of the Technicolor Nightmare, and also from the Kentucky Vampires, Mr. Zac Campbell. We're going to be talking to Zac about a lot of stuff about the Kentucky Vampires' upcoming EP and reworking their second album, Crimson Curse, for a vinyl release this year, and Zac's side projects that will release EPs this year as well. So he's staying busy with all his projects. So we're definitely going to get to talk about that here in just a minute. But Mr. Waylon, my man, how was the show up in Ohio for the Technicolor Nightmare?
Oh man, it was good. Bad weather, not a super huge crowd or anything like that, but we did meet a few people that were super into it, had a good time, played what I thought was a good show, and enjoyed ourselves. It was an adventure getting up there with the roads the way they were. So that
Yeah.
was
Yeah, I thought about you guys that day when you're traveling up there. I was like, "Oh my god, it's freaking snowing, and they're going to Ohio." So, how was the new song felt up there, man? How'd y'all get a reaction?
seemed to do pretty well. People seem to dig it, and what I posted that video of it online too. People seem to really like that. So we'll see once it's studio released, and that'll get the real reaction on it because live video with a cell phone doesn't necessarily do something like that all the justice in the world.
That's true. That is very true. So, Mr. Zac Campbell, how you doing, my friend?
Doing good. How about you?
Doing awesome. Glad to have you on here, and I'm glad our brother George said, "Get Zac on here, man, because he'll be a great interview." So I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, thank you for having me, and yeah, thanks to George for setting this up.
So, how excited are you for the Kentucky Vampires' upcoming EP and reworking second album, Crimson Curse, for a vinyl release?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, very excited. We've been working on the third full length album for quite a while, and we've decided to basically release an EP here pretty soon, just to get some material out there because we've been kind of silent for a while. But the new material, I mean, it's I think all of us in the band have grown as musicians, and as far as being able to record, and we've grown a lot in different areas, and I'm just the material is solid, and I'm really excited to get it out there. It's some of the best stuff I think we've done. And when it comes to the Crimson Curse final, that's been a long time coming. It's been a long, bumpy road. But now we have a new drummer who joined our band, and the original Crimson Curse album really was just the drums that I programmed. So he wants an opportunity to be on the album, and we want him to be on the album. And adding an element of a human feel is going to make everything so much better than just some MIDI programmed drums. So really excited to have him on that. I mean, everything that he's touched so far, it sounds so different, and it kind of comes alive. So when it comes to putting that on the vinyl, I think that that's going to be a huge it's going to change it a lot, and it's going to make that experience a lot better, I think. So we're pretty excited about it, and happy to have him on board too. He's a hell of a drummer.
Folks, if you have any questions whatsoever for myself, Zac, or Waylon, please put them in the chat here, and we'll be able to answer those. And I apologize. I'm trying to get another device to where I can actually watch all these chats come in here all at once from the different ones that I have set up here for this. So I apologize. But may have to get somebody else to help us out here too as well, because I don't want to overlook anybody's questions or think that I'm overlooking them, because I'm not. Because I definitely want everybody's interaction on this, for sure. For you though, Zac, man, you mentioned something there just a little bit ago about having this new drummer in the band. What has he brought to the Kentucky Vampires that may have been missing? Not knocking the other drummer or anything like that whatsoever, but what's he brought to this band that may have been missing possibly?
Yeah. So the other drummer
was the computer.
Well, yeah,
and I am no drummer, so he's bringing a lot to the band. He's from another. He's been in a lot of other bands, but his last primary band was a band out of Louisville, Kentucky called Stagecoach Inferno. It's kind of like a metal Western themed kind of band. Really great. I mean, that band's awesome.
This is just a
Everybody
bunch of really cool ass bands from Louisville that I have not heard of somehow.
Yeah, check him out. And I mean, he brings he's a seriously talented guy, and he brings a lot of when it comes to the drums. I mean, there's no way I could do what he does with MIDI and stuff. So I mean, I think that's a huge thing that he's bringing to the band, and it really gives the band a backbone that it never really had with percussion. So.
Now, going the EP route instead of actually trying to put out this full length, I know you said you just want to get stuff out there, but does that kind of take away from the full length that you guys want to put out there, or are there going to be 2 more EPs on this? Because I know you want to stay relevant. I know you want to keep putting stuff out there, but
well,
go ahead.
Yeah, traditionally we've released an EP and then an album, so it kind of follows suit to what we've always done. But a real long story short, our singer had a lot of health and family issues the past year, and that really slowed us down. We had to cancel our appearance at Absolution Fest and a couple other shows, and he's doing better now, so that's good. But I think we just want to get some of the new material out there, and I think we're kind of looking at it as where an EP would be kind of the better way to do that, while we're still trying to tidy up the vinyl and everything. Puts a little less pressure on him and those involved in getting that thing to happen.
Yeah, I mean, just in general nowadays, it's almost a smarter move to do EPs and singles than it is to even put out.
Yeah,
albums,
I think in our band we have some some people I think the EP and single route is the way to go, whereas I think maybe it's just me, but I always prefer doing albums. But maybe the EP route is a way to go, and then a physical release of a collection of EPs is probably like what makes sense. So we're kind of more or less trying to figure out what the middle ground is there to make everybody happy with everything. So.
Well, it's like for us, we put out a whole album there last year. Actually, I was looking at your stuff, and we put out an album in February of last year as well. And then we were like, now we're trying to like figure out whether we do singles or EPs moving forward, or what we're going to do with that. And I think probably it's just going to be singles for the time being, just because it's so much easier just to get in there and bite off one song than it is to do the whole album. But I myself like to listen to whole albums, and I like concept albums and things.
That's how I am too.
So it's like, for me, it's like, it kind of breaks my heart to do this, but also it's the business wise and like exposure wise and promotion wise, like it just modern social media, you got to capture those attention spans, and you got to hit them multiple times a year to do it.
Yeah. And that's kind of like, maybe we're older and the younger generation, we have to adapt and learn, I guess. But, I guess the problem is there's so much media out there that you stagnate pretty quickly, and people lose interest. And if you're not releasing something on a regular basis, then you're kind of, sinking to the bottom, so to speak, I guess. So.
Yeah, and it's like I've said this, I sound like a broken record, but it's the God's honest truth. It's not like the old days where you had to wait, for your bands to put out a full length before you heard anything about them. Yeah. Till you like a hit parader or
like back then logistically it made sense too. You know what I mean? You spend the time working on it, and then when it came to distribution, it wasn't as simple as just uploading it to a website. Mm-hmm. It was getting, physical copies made. It was getting all the promotional materials out there on TVs and radios and doing all that, like boots on the ground contact, and then shipping all that shit out to stores. And I mean, that's a lot compared to what they do nowadays, where most of these new artists are like a 2-minute song every 2 weeks, it seems like,
Right? Like, back then everybody had to go to a studio to record, and now you can just do this at your house. I mean,
which is something I was noticing behind you there. You got some sick shit back there in the background, my friend. I see a Laney. I see 3. Is there more Marshalls or just 3?
I've got 3 Marshalls.
Oh, there's a Mesa down there at the bottom as well.
Mesa Boogie, 5150.
The orange up there.
Which orange is that? Is that a Rocker Verb or?
That's an Orange Crush. But actually, that's only. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I only own 2 solid state amps. That's one, and then I got a JC 120 back here.
I gig with a Crush Pro 120. I love those things, dude. As far as solid state goes, those are fucking great. They're amazing.
I just started kind of collecting and ended up with all this stuff. stuff. And then I actually sold an amp recently because I just have accumulated too much stuff and I don't use it. So I'm like, okay, time to start getting rid of some of this stuff.
What kind of synth is that back there behind you?
Oh, this is a Arturia Key Lab. I'm just using a MIDI controller.
It's fucking cool.
Yeah,
I've been sitting over here. I've been sitting over here since we got on the call. I've been nerding out, just like, what is all that back there? What's he got?
Yeah.
What is that?
Oh yeah,
Very nice setup, though.
A lot of stuff. Thank you very much.
I'm a software guy, and I'm always itching to find stuff better than WavePad than what I use. And looks like you got Adobe there, if I'm not mistaken, on the computer. Or something.
That's Logic.
Oh well, whatever. Same. Okay. I need something better than WavePad. That's all I'm going to say. Hopefully one day I'll have it.
Cubase, my man. That's a good, easy to get a hold of kind of thing.
Yeah, I want to pay for it because that's an expensive program, but I'm going to pay for it eventually.
You can get Elements for like $60. Everything you need.
I will get one of them.
Anyways, derailing the conversation. My bad. I had to gear nerd there for a second.
Oh, you're fine. Don't worry about it, man. It's totally fine. Totally fine. So I don't know if it's affected you guys or not, Zach, but when the pandemic hit, has this given you guys extra time to create more music for this upcoming PV? Lord of mercy, this upcoming EP.
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, so I write a lot. Like I write constantly and record constantly. And for instance, the third album for Vampires, I wrote all of the guitars for it over the span of like 2.5 months. I think I came up with like 14 tracks, and then we whittled them down to what is going to end up on the album. And I never kind of stopped writing, so I just kind of kept, writing, and now I have this huge pile of stuff to sort through. But I kind of worked on some other projects and stuff with our singer, being dealing with all the health issues and things that he'd been going through and stuff. So and our bassist, he's got a solo project that he works on. And I think most of us stayed busy as much as we could. And then, our singer's just been kind of in a tough spot dealing with some stuff. So luckily that's turned around here recently. So I think he's, happy and excited to, start working on it again, I think. But it was kind of like an unspoken silent hiatus, I guess, there for a little while. But so hope that answers your question.
No, that's totally fine. I lost my train of thought. I was going to ask. Go ahead, Waylon. Come up with something.
I was going to ask about the kind of music you guys are playing, man, because I listened to a little bit of Holy Heretic, and I fucking dig it. I feel like this is like, not to be too on the nose here, but I can easily imagine fucking Lestat performing this in Death Valley. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, hell yeah, that's my vibe.
Yeah, I mean,
I love anything vampire related, so.
Our first album was kind of like intended to be pure death rock kind of stuff, and I really wanted to go in that direction. And then I was in a goth rock band before Vampires, and then it kind of evolved into doing some more gothic rock kind of stuff. And then the Crimson Curse is just like my favorite gothic rock period is basically like the second wave, the 90s stuff, like the just pure, all the trappings and everything of goth, everything related, like it's just, we're goth, like that's what it is. So I think that kind of came out in Crimson Curse, and then we were, working with other musicians and stuff that were kind of rooted in that, so it became like a pure goth rock album, and
like industrial vibe too, the way the synths are kind of playing with things here and there, and maybe it's the MIDI drums too that are doing that to me.
Maybe. Yeah,
I enjoy it.
Yeah, so the third album is I don't know how to explain what the third album became. I wrote it a lot differently on my part, and then it's a lot more of a personal album musically, like for all of us. I think I feel like I've kind of when we started working on it, I feel like I kind of tapped into a part of me that I didn't really know existed, and was able to express myself in a way that I've never done before. So I'm really excited to get that stuff out there, because I really feel like I've bled my soul into the music that I wrote for that album. So it's a very emotionally personal album to me. So I'm pretty excited to get it out there.
Excited to hear it myself now.
Is that
Those are good words. I like those.
is that the best growth that you've seen come out of you personally from album to album? Is this the
Yeah,
sound, is this the sound and the direction that you want to go?
yeah, I think so. I mean, so that's the thing too, right? Like, I think in the first album, like I was really focused on like I wanted to sound like a certain way,
Mm,
and then the second album, I still have this mindset, like should sound this way. And then the third album, it just was like a natural thing, and I wasn't really trying to direct it one way or the other. It just kind of came out, and that's how it ended up. And I also when I wrote the first two albums, the guitars, I would just write them. Like I would write it, and that whatever came out, that's how it was. I wouldn't go back and refine anything. It went like straight on the recording, and that was it. But the third album, I have like this cheapy acoustic guitar, and I basically spent like a week with every single song playing it on acoustic before I ever tried to record it.
mm.
So I think that helped me kind of be more choosy and like pick certain parts and change things and work on it and kind of refine it a little bit more. So
Are there any songs, man, that were left off those albums that are on this album, possibly, or these are all just brand new?
well, they're all brand new. There were like 6 or 7 songs that Crimson Curse had that we didn't use. And we were, the idea was that we would use them on the new album. I think maybe one part of one of them may end up on the new album.
Hmm.
But for the most part, it's just like kind of pushed to the wayside, and they're just sitting there. So maybe one day we'll pick one up. And actually, the song on Crimson Curse, Vampire's Coffin, that was wrote during the first album, and we didn't put it on the first album, and then stuck it on Crimson Curse. So that's one that kind of like bled over. And we used to do a couple cover songs too, like the theme song from Return of the Living Dead, the Trioxin thing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we used to play that at shows, but we never committed it to a recording or anything.
Do you guys got a song, man, that's not on an album yet that just don't fit it? And eventually will, possibly.
Oh yeah, actually.
Ha.
Yeah, we made a couple songs, and it was like it started going way like I don't know what you would say, like a synth pop kind of Depeche Mode-esque kind of stuff.
Oh, wow.
I mean, like our singer, like I want to say that like he's a really talented guy, but man, he like what he did with those songs. We're like, oh, these are great, but we're like, I don't know if this is really a Kentucky Vampires thing, or like we should release this on something else. So it's kind of just sat there, but we don't really know what to do with it. But that may come
That's
out.
the same thing in our band too. We probably got more songs that we've written and never recorded or released or even play anymore than what we have actually released.
Yeah.
One of those things you're just like, oh, that's a cool sound, but I don't know if it vibes with everything else that we're doing.
I mean, you kind of hate to alienate your fans, I guess, to say, oh, well,
Yeah.
we're doing this weird thing now, or like it doesn't jive with the rest of our sound or whatever, but
Yeah.
on the other hand, I mean, branching out and experimenting is not a bad thing, I think. So
There might be something you find in that you bring back into the other stuff that actually does mesh and element. Like you're like taking pieces of songs, like there are things that we've written that sit for 6 or 7 years, and then we're like, well, what about? I like the way that lyric was and the way that vocal melody was, and then you bring it back and totally retool to a whole new song around it, even.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too.
Yeah.
Would you say it's an even playing field now, Zach, for local bands, or do you think it's oversaturated now with music that's out there because of the pandemic? Because everybody now is creating music under the sun. And pretty much, I've said this a thousand times, I truly believe this. If you're a national touring band, hey, you don't have to worry about it. But some just had to adapt or either fall out pretty much. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's one benefit to playing like, a niche type genre is that it's when like, say for instance, like, in goth rock, like, I don't think that there's necessarily an oversaturation of like what I would say is gothic rock bands. Now, like when it comes to maybe like some of your more dark wave kind of stuff, like, there's a lot more of that than there is gothic rock, but it's kind of a niche thing now. Like when you talk about other genres, like maybe metal or like maybe punk rock. I don't know to say for sure, but I mean, like, there's a lot more of that than there is of what we're doing. So,
Sure.
I don't know.
Stubbed
I
my
mean,
toe on 6 new metal bands this morning when I got out of bed.
yeah, I mean, I look at it like this way, like, I live in Florida, and, if I had to guess Gothic bands in the state of Florida, there's probably less than 20, I would guess, maybe. Metal bands, there's probably 20 in the city I live in, I don't know. Like, there's just so much more of that kind of stuff. So I think that's an interesting dynamic in this kind of music, is that the odds of you at least getting a first, like a chance to be heard at least once, I think is a lot higher in this kind of music. But with the pandemic, I don't know so much that there was a lot of new bands coming into our scene. I mean, maybe I do a kind of a crap job of keeping up with that, but yeah, I mean, maybe I could see that. Yeah, I think
So
it's
is that something that you find playing that type of a genre? Is that where it is so niche? Do you find yourself just like kind of building your own scenes around that, or like do you guys cross over with other genres of bands and play with those guys too, or is it mainly like you?
yeah, I think that's like a good thing, right? If you can cross over into other genres, which is something that we kind of tried to do, because like our first album was, I think horror punk people could dig the first album. Because it's all horror movie kind of stuff, and it's got that kind of I don't know what you would call that element to it, I guess. But we never really successfully did that, as far as I know. But there are some bands that do cross over, and I think that's good. But like as far as the goth scene goes, I would say it's a small scene compared to other scenes, but it's on an international scale. And then you have like localized regions where it's like, there's certain places that it's bigger than others. So like for us, I mean, with our stats we get from streaming services, I mean, we're far more popular outside of the US than we are inside the US, which I think is probably common for every band in this scene. But
Yeah.
it's I mean, like there's hot spots around the country, and you kind of have to, if you were going to tour, you could go and kind of hit these hot spots, I guess you could say.
What about the actual scene in Florida for sorry, Lord of mercy, I said Garth Brooks. What am I doing? Lord of mercy, goth rock. Do you guys have a great scene? Does it shock you that there is a pretty good lot of people that come out to goth rock shows?
Yeah, I think this. I mean, Florida has a good scene. So I was living in Louisville, Kentucky, and like 10 years ago, there was a really good scene there, and now it's kind of coming back in Louisville. I mean, they're getting like some more, bands popping up, and like shows and events happening and stuff. But in Florida, they have the in Tampa. There's a scene there. There's some like stuff in Orlando, West Palm, and Miami. So it's kind of like people are driving around between these cities and stuff. But we go to some shows like recently we went to see Twin Tribes when she passed away, and I mean it was like a sold out show, and there was too many people there that it was almost unenjoyable to be there, to be quite honest, because there's so many people there. But I do find it I think Florida has a bigger scene than I could probably speak to, because I've only been here for a few years. But there's more people. There's a bigger scene here than there was in Kentucky or Indiana. I would say maybe bigger than what's in Chicago. I don't know.
What does the Kentucky Vampires bring to the table for music, man, that's not out there as of right now? What do you guys bring that isn't out there?
I don't know. I mean, each of us have our own kind of element that we bring like to our band, I guess. I mean, we're all trying to play kind of an homage to the music we enjoy, I guess, but keeping our identity with it as well. So I think it's our take on our take on goth rock, I guess, with our each individual experiences and different influences, I guess you could say.
What does influences be? Like there be some like Typo Negative in there, things of that nature? Or?
Oh yeah, I'd like Typo Negative. I mean, our singer, I think he's a pretty big Typo Negative fan, and I'm more into the bands like, Nosferatu and The Wake and Rosetta Stone. And, as far as the 90s goes, and then, more recently, like October Burns Black and, all these Sweet Airman Guard and things like this, NFD and Fields of Nephilim, et cetera, so forth.
Interesting. There's a lot of bands in there I've never heard of. I need to educate myself, man.
Oh man, it's like a bottomless pit when you start digging.
Yeah,
a lot of obscure stuff. So
Yeah, he's mentioned several that I've heard of, and they're really damn good.
yeah.
It's so amazing, man. If people just branch out and just open their ears and don't just be stale to one genre, which I mean that's totally up to you. That's your cup of tea. But there's some great stuff out there. Like I've been hooked on the Dead South here the past couple weeks. I mean that's something that I never thought I would listen to. And
like a bluegrassy kind of stuff, right?
Bluegrassy rock. I mean it's got a lot of flavors in it, man. It's so good.
And it's weird that I play like psychedelic, like weird, like southerny prog rock, but then I listen mainly to like hip hop a lot of the time. Like that's what I find myself listening to most. It seems like.
See, that's what I'm saying, man. It's like here's another question though. Do you listen to any other type of music to gain inspiration other than what you're actual playing? Because I know a lot of bands and a lot of people, they don't specifically listen to their own style of music because it burns them out while they're creating that album and that music. Listen to other genres and stuff. Does that help you guys during this process?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, like I can't speak for anyone else in the band, but I want to say since 2003-ish, I've pretty much exclusively listened to mostly gothic rock and underground goth music. Was into EBM there for a while in the beginning, but I've kind of got out of that. But I listen to a lot of different things, but I mean, I'm just around music in general, being exposed from other people listening to music or something like this. But yeah, I mean, I don't really like go out of my way looking for anything different or anything, but I'm not opposed to listening to something different, I guess. Always keep an open mind for everything, I guess.
Sometimes music finds you. You know what I mean? You don't go looking for it; it just finds you somehow.
Yeah. I mean, my wife is really into metal music, so we've gone to some shows that I probably wouldn't have chose myself to go to, and I can find something to enjoy at these things. So,
Do you see the band and yourself still musically growing from album to album? And if so, man, what's that growth that you've seen so far in this band?
Yeah, I think we're definitely growing from album to album. I mean, I think each of us are learning, because we each record our own parts. So each of us are learning how to do that better. And each of us are, maybe learning how to write a little bit better, or maybe understanding, an influence or something on how to write, like that comes up in yourself or something. But, I think, trying to grow as a person, musically and spiritually, I think is, really important to do through music. But I can only speak to myself for that. But I think the other guys are doing the same as well.
What about pushing that envelope on each song, going outside that box to not, go out too far, but still stay true to your sound? How far do y'all push that?
So I think I'm going to credit our singer for that, because generally, like, I just do what I do, and then he'll be like, hey, maybe this sounds a little too much like something else we've done, or, why don't you try changing this or something, So, he's involved in this production process, I guess, whereas I just kind of hammer stuff out. And I don't really think too much about it. But whenever he goes to lay down the vocals, he's like, yeah, it would be better if you did this here because it could support what I'm going to do vocally or something like this. So, I think me and him have that interaction a lot. And then, when we add the bass, he may go to the bassist and say, hey, what if you did this here, because I'm going to do this vocally and this would support it better, et cetera, so forth, that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, you got to have that holistic approach. You got to write a whole song. You can't just have everybody write a part and then slap it all together and hope it works.
Yeah, and it's a lot of staying open to criticism. I
Yeah,
think.
you've got to be like
Yeah,
accepting of that. And then like it's you were talking about earlier with like feeling like you've grown and you said that you thought this was some of the best stuff you'd ever done. And
yeah,
I feel like as a musician, my friends get tired of hearing me say that about new songs. I'm like, dude, it's the best shit we've ever written. And they're like, you say that every time. And it's like, well, good. I'm glad that I feel like I'm growing and that I'm not just stagnating.
yeah, for sure.
Has there been a song for you guys, man, that's changed so much before it actually hit the final, the final product from infancy to adulthood, from infancy to adulthood? Has there been that one song possibly?
I mean, maybe like honestly, on Crimson Curse, I would write the drums, and then I would write guitars, and then I would write bass, and then we would send it out. And I was like, hey, this is kind of my idea of what I think the bass should be doing or what it should sound like. And then our bassist, who plays a completely different style than I play. I mean, he's a real bassist, whereas I am not. um, every time he would change the bass, it changed how it sounded entirely. And I think that's a really good thing. At first, I had like some, like, this changes like my entire perception of how this sounded, but I just kind of learned to accept it. With our band, I wanted everyone to have like an equal, I guess you could say like almost an ownership. Like, this is your stake. You do what you want with it. So again, keeping an open mind. So tried to be open to what he did, and then whenever it all came together, it was like, oh, okay, I get it now. But yeah, when it first heard it, you're like, it sounds so different from what I pictured or how I would have did it, and I think that's maybe a part of maturing and working with others. But
Yeah, part of the recording process too that you
yeah,
learn
yeah,
from, like, hitting that studio and, like, actually putting together an album will grow you as a musician because,
yeah,
like,
for sure.
for me, there were parts of some of our songs where I was like, "I don't wanna change that. I like what I'm doing there." And then everybody'd be like, "No, it needs to be simpler here," or like, "You're doing too much there," or like, "Chill
Yeah,
out on that," or "Do this." And I'm like, fine. And then I'd do it and I'd be like, okay, yeah, that sounds fucking fantastic. I guess probably should stow my ego away and just listen to what you guys are saying because we're writing songs together.
yeah, yeah. I think I mean, other than that, I can't think of a good example. I mean, I kind of start the foundation of the song, and then it kind of builds from there. So it's always kind of changing.
Do you think, man, this is the new norm on how music's going to be from here on out?
Uh,
Because I don't see it ever going back to any normal. I mean, the way it was pre-pandemic.
you mean
That's me. That's me personally.
you mean like working remotely or
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
yeah, interaction, like having a full band in a studio, stuff like that. Concerts. I mean,
oh
concerts
yeah.
are kind of getting back out there, but it's I don't know.
I'll tell you what, when live streaming concerts started to be a real big thing, I was really upset about it because I'm like, I do not want this to be the new normal, like where I
Right.
pay a ticket to watch a band in England or something play. I mean, it's cool technology, but man, it's not the same as being in a room with the music so loud you can't hear people talking. I mean, like you lose all of this experience and I really hope it doesn't go that way. As far as working in a studio, I think that's been dead. Like I mean, if you can afford to go in a studio, I think most people would rather do it at home and work remotely. Working remotely leads to a lot of saving money as far as going to a studio and booking time and stuff like that. But any kid can get a MacBook and make a hit song nowadays in their bedroom. So
That's true.
I don't think I think studios are going away. I mean,
I
there's
think
some,
that's a good thing in a lot of ways
yeah.
too. Like it adds an egalitarian element to things. It levels the playing field a lot.
I mean, there's something to be said about it, right? Like going into a studio is a really awesome experience, and I mean, having a nice sound treated room to someone who mixes and masters, and that's an art. And the people who know how to do that really well, I mean, they're going to be great with it. But I think for like the general, like you know, average band, like I could see like the garage band kind of thing. But I mean, working remotely, like I've been able to do that quite a bit with people from across the country here recently, and I mean the world, in different countries, and that leads to a lot of interesting opportunities that a lot of people can work remotely with anyone now, so that's really cool.
Yeah, the cool part about all this, man, especially with the whole interaction with the computer now, is that locally for you guys, Technicolor Nightmare and the Kentucky Vampires, man, you guys can reach out to a broader horizon of folks, man, like overseas
Oh yeah.
especially. And it absolutely blows my mind that how much over people overseas dig goth rock or dig prog rock like you guys do, or just rock it over or metal in general, and they eat it up, man. What's your thoughts on that, Zach, about getting any fans from well, not fans, but any supporters from over there, like in the Kentucky Vampires?
Oh yeah. So I mean, we go to Mexico quite often. My wife's Mexican, and the Mexican scene for goth and punk music is insane, and it's
Yes.
awesome. And I love going down there and being able to go to a show or any event down there for that stuff and just seeing stuff. And I mean, man, it's a different culture, of course, but like they enjoy music in a way that I don't think most Americans that I know enjoy music.
No.
I think that's to be said, not just to say Mexico, but other countries. Like different culturally, you experience it different than say your average American or something. But I don't. I mean, there's historical reasons why these scenes exist in other countries, and I mean. So I think like with the age that we're in where there's so much online music, I mean you can find it on Bandcamp or Spotify or whatever so easily, so you just end up popping up into these scenes that it's pretty easy to get some exposure out there, I guess. You're not really a regional thing. It's not like, oh, you go to a show or something maybe 20 or 30 years ago and that's how you found a band or something, but I think you still do that today. But for the most part, I think most people experience music visually through YouTube or through Spotify or something like this, streaming services.
Yeah,
I think, and you look at the U.S., you compare those two things, like especially when it comes to like Hispanic people. I've noticed like there's a lot of people in Brazil that love what we do. Like when I look at our Spotify metrics and shit, man, it's eat up with people in South America that are just like, hell yeah, rock and roll. And I think it's just like commercialization of music was born here in the U.S. And when you talk about experiencing it in that visual element, they want a music video of a pretty boy doing cool stuff, singing songs that are just as absolutely accessible as it can possibly be. And then like in these other cultures, like especially the Hispanic people, it seems like music is a part of their cultural identity.
Oh yeah.
And it borders on spiritual, the way they enjoy music down there.
Yeah. I mean, the first show I went to in Mexico was Los Carniceros del Norte, and that was the most insane show I've ever been to. I mean, it was just the venue was max capacity. Like, I don't think that's a rule down there. I mean, it was dangerous how many people were in there, and it was just everybody was like a unit enjoying this experience together, and it was really awesome. And
that's something with the live streams too. You're talking about like that, you lose that element of it, and then like. I think when I was younger, I was always like, why does live stuff sound worse to me? And I realize now as a musician and as an adult that like the room reverb, the way that it ties things together sound wise, whereas, like the way things are mixed to sound good in a room does not necessarily translate to a soundboard recording.
Oh yeah.
So when you're getting this audio straight from the soundboards, especially in a live stream, to me, it just loses all of its luster. It loses all of its magic. Everything is so dry. It doesn't congeal in any way. Like,
and you lose the community too, right? Like, I mean, like when I was a kid going to shows, I mean, that's how I met most of my friends, like going to shows and stuff.
Yeah.
And, that's the cool part about the show is having a beer with your friends or something, hanging out.
Yeah. And I want to go back on this too, the cultural aspect, man. These folks, they eat this stuff up. I mean, it's like just like you guys said, it's a spiritual movement for them. And it's cool. That's very, very cool. I love how these other cultures,
I'm jealous of it. I wish we had it here.
Oh yeah, cultures, I should say, not cultures. I can't talk tonight, folks. I apologize. I'm trying.
I think like, in the States, it's hard to get people to go out and support scenes and stuff. Whereas like, I don't see that in Mexico. Like I'm just using this as an example because we go there so often, but I mean, when there's an event, like everybody's coming to the event, you know. But here in the States, like it's the same 30 or 40 people, and 20 of these people are, yeah, maybe I'll come, and they never do, you know.
I think it's maybe like also there's a just a cultural difference in like individualistic
Yeah,
ideals that we have here in the
community.
U.S. versus community down there. Like community is important
Oh yeah,
to the people in Central America and South America still very much. That's why they have these large extended families that still live together and do things
Mhm.
together, and they love coming out and enjoying things with their community. And in the
Yeah.
U.S., everybody just wants to kind of, I hate to be negative, but everybody wants to kind of be stuck up their own ass and sit at home all day. You know, like you know.
They take it for granted, man. They're like, "Hey, they'll be back," or either they just don't like it, and I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
If they come around, go see them if you can. You
Yeah.
know,
Man, I've
that's
driven 6 or 7 hours to go see bands that I like, and I see people on Facebook all the time bitching because a band is not coming exactly to their city. They're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I wish you'd come here," and it's like, "Dude, they're 2 hours away from you. Fucking hop in your car, do a little road trip, get on an adventure, live."
Yeah,
You
and some
know?
people don't want to pay a cover charge either, which just blows
Yeah.
my mind.
yeah, yeah. I media. I do media a lot. I buy my own tickets. You know, I buy my own tickets, folks. Sometimes they'll say, "Do you want free tickets?" Sometimes I'll say yes. But if I had to buy my own tickets, I will buy my own tickets. I do not care. That's supporting the bands.
Yeah.
You know, that's what you
That's probably
do.
the most direct way to support a band nowadays is through merch and through ticket sales.
Yeah,
I mean, we
yeah.
don't make anything from fucking music, I'll tell you that. Like
No, and I've always bitched about that. You know, if you go out to a show, buy a shirt, buy a beanie, buy something from those folks because that's gas money, that's food money.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
that helps them out tremendously. Um,
Power off.
uh-oh. Uh-oh. But anyway, yeah, it's things here are taken for granted. I'll say that because, there was another band on here talking about this. When they go overseas, it's so much different. And this is a national touring band. They go overseas, it's so much different than here
I
because,
think
like you
there's
said,
probably also an element of the exotic to that too, though. Like for
true.
us, if a band comes overseas to the United States, the fans that they have here are going to turn up for that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Whereas, and they don't get these U.S. bands quite as often as we do, so they're like, "Oh shit, they're coming! We gotta go! Like, we
Yeah,
gotta
I
go
said
see 'em."
that's another part of that too, right? Like, I mean, if you're
Yeah,
in another country and a band comes from outside of your country, I mean, I think you take interest in that at least to say
yeah.
this might be interesting, or something. But
Like I would love to go see Ramstein, and I haven't gotten to see them live yet. But the next time I see that they're in the United States, dude, I'm on that. Like, I'm going.
I drove 4.5 hours, almost 5 hours to see Danzig on his 25th anniversary tour. I was not going to miss that.
Yeah,
Not going to miss it because they had Doyle on there with them. I mean, at that time, you're like, fuck, you got to go see this because they're playing Misfit songs plus Danzig's doing his stuff. You go. This has to be a have to go. And it's
yeah,
very fortunate that I got to go to it. So,
sadly, I've only ever seen the Jerry only version live. I mean, I've never had the opportunity to see Danzig or I never saw Michael Graves either. But that's
um,
okay.
I will tell you this right now. When they took the stage, when they started into the Misfit song, Glenn didn't even have to sing. All they had to do is play it, and everybody else was singing. That hands down, God's honest truth. That was it. I mean, the fans did the show.
Yeah,
It was absolutely unbelievable. And at that time, if I was able to bring my phone in there, I would have filmed some of it. But they stopped a lot of people. But
yeah.
some got in there anyway. But oh well. What do you hope everyone takes away while listening to any of the Kentucky Vampires music in general, Zach? What do you hope they get from it, man? Possibly, if anything.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, just enjoyment in general. I mean, if the song speaks to you about something like that, I mean, I've heard that like, you know, get through like a rough time or something like that. That's awesome. But I mean, I'm just kind of, I speak for myself and not for anyone else in the band, but like, I'm just making the music because I need to have that release to make music. And I mean, if that speaks to somebody in some way, then that's incredible. And I have a hard time, I guess, understanding what that means. I guess, like I try to stay humble and everything, but like when people tell me, "Oh, this is such an important thing to me," I'm like, "Oh, really? Oh, that's really awesome. Thanks." But like, I really, I can't wrap my head around it. I guess, but I'm just trying to express myself. And if that speaks to you, then that's awesome, and that's more than I could hope for.
I've always said this, and my friends kind of look at me a little weird when I say this about the horror bands and goth bands. I was like, yeah, every song is their own horror movie.
Yeah.
It's just like any other song. It's just in their genre. It's their horror movie. So
yeah, it's all about the entertainment. I mean,
yep. I know you got a lot of music, man, that you still listen to today, but do you still have a go-to album or song that you find yourself gravitating back to or listening to from time to time? Something that you just can't kick out of your Spotify or whatever that you listen to now?
That's a really hard question because I listen to a lot of old stuff. I mean, a lot of stuff from the 80s and 90s. I mean, I'd be hard pressed to pick anything. I mean, I'm constantly listening to, The Mission and Sisters of Mercy, The Wake, all these bands, Rosetta Stone and Nosferatu. I mean, I kind of listen to a lot of old music all the time, so that's hard to say.
There's got to be a band on the bucket list for you to play with. Who's it going to be?
Play with? Oh, I don't know. Bands that I want to see, I've never been able to see The Cure. I had tickets to see them, and I took a new job, and it was basically like I had to go to this training class in Germany, and if I didn't, I was going to have to wait 6 months, and I couldn't stay at my old job for 6 months, so I missed that opportunity. So I'm hoping they come and play another U.S. tour so I can catch them. And in September, I get to see The Mission for the first time if that doesn't get canceled, so I'm extremely excited about that. But man, I would love to play with so many bands, like not even huge bands, just there's so many bands I couldn't pick who I'd love to play with, to be honest with you.
So you got some side projects that you're going to release EPs this year. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I've been working on and off for over a year now on my own solo thing. And I don't consider myself a strong vocalist or anything. So it's been a kind of an uphill battle, like making something I'm happy with, but I hope to release that this year. And it's probably just going to be like a 4-track EP. I am working on a 4-track EP right now with the singer from the Shallow Graves. It's a German gothic rock band from like the 2010s-ish area. Mm-hmm. He approached me and asked me, hey, would you be interested in doing like a heavy goth rock kind of, Lacrimus Profundre, 69 Eyes, Paradise Lost kind of thing. So I've been working on that with him, and we're still in the writing stage. We're halfway done, and we're bringing in the Kentucky Vampires drummer on that as well, and the bassist from his other band, Stagecoach Inferno. And we're going to have that mixed at Kohler Keller Studios in Germany, which really excited about. Been working on that. The other project I'm working on is a band called The Waning Moon, and it's with Ariel from the Black Halos from Costa Rica. So we're working on an EP and a full-length album right now. We have the EP pretty much done, and the full-length is near completion. And that's probably releasing here pretty soon. And we're going to be meeting up and filming some video and stuff for some music videos for that. So really excited about that one, and potentially going to be touring Mexico this year later with that band. So
stay busy. That's what all that equipment back there is for, isn't it?
Oh yeah, got to justify having all this.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. I find that so cool, man. I wish that I had more projects that I was dipping my toes in, but like I got 2 kids, and then I'm doing 2 podcasts and the band, and that keeps me pretty busy.
I don't recommend it, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah,
it's difficult. Yeah,
how do you? Sure. So your solo stuff, is it going to be in the same vein as the Kentucky Vampires, or is it going to be something different?
Well, it's a little different. I mean, it's got that vibe just because that's, it's just me. I've added a lot more synth stuff in with that. It's got some dark wave kind of elements to it, but it's mainly some gothic rock. And then like this project, The Waning Moon, is like pure 90s gothic rock with like electronic drums and some high gain guitars and big thick bass and synths and samples and stuff. And the other band is pretty heavy for me. I mean, it's like heavy gothic rock kind of stuff. So I've kind of stayed in the in this umbrella, so to speak, I guess. But
all right, folks, I want to thank my guest this evening, Zac Campbell of the Kentucky Vampires, and also my awesome co-host, as always, Waylon Whitson of the Technicolor Nightmare. I always say that like a Technicolor Nightmare.
The
Technicolor Nightmare. I like saying it like that. Please get out and check out Zac's stuff with the Kentucky Vampires, plus his solo stuff and his side projects that are coming up. So, Zac, my man, how could folks stay in touch with you through all this stuff? Buy some merchandise or anything that you have me to support you. How can they do that, sir?
Yeah, so you can follow Kentucky Vampires on Facebook, Bandcamp, Spotify, YouTube. You can follow me on Facebook if you want. I'm on Instagram, the FL Vampire, Florida FL. I'm posting on there near daily, and as news comes out with vampires, we post on our Facebook page pretty regularly. We're also on Instagram too. So the side projects will have some pages here pretty soon on all those social media places as well. So.
Yeah, once you get your side project stuff, getting ready to release your stuff, man, you're welcome back on here to promote it as well again.
So. Oh, right on. Thank you. And thanks for having me tonight. It's nice. Thank you.
Not a problem whatsoever. Folks, there is a new album that's coming out called Los Morts. New album called El Culto. And I know I'm probably butchering this like crazy, but Los Morts, new album, El Culto. Culto. So you want to check that out. In the vein of the Misfits, stuff like that. This is a Hispanic band. Like good stuff. Good stuff from these guys. Next Friday, Eli Griffith will be on the podcast. A local DJ here. He also does his own stuff, and Eli's a good guy. I like having Eli on.
Getting Eli on next week?
Yeah, Eli's gonna be here next Friday.
Cool.
But hey, we got a lot of stuff coming up, and also plus the Beyond the Paranormal podcast I do on Tuesday nights. I have Mr. Christopher St. Booth, who is with Spooked TV. They've got all kinds of DVDs out and things like that. Check that out if you like the paranormal stuff. Please, folks, support BODS Mayhem Hour, like the YouTube page and the Facebook page, and keep in touch with us because we got a lot of great stuff coming up on down the line. Trust me, for sure. As always, from my co-host Waylon Whitson, we will see you here next Friday on BODS Mayhem Hour live podcast with Eli Griffith. So
thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you guys.